Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we're back with an opinion video, and this video has been in my mind for a very long time. And it's basically what video or the video I think people should watch before choosing what gear to buy when they don't really know what to buy. We've all been on forums, Facebook groups, Reddit groups, anything like that, rooms and so on, where we see someone say, hey, I want to buy a medium format camera, which one is the best? Or I want to buy a 35mm lens, what is the best? Or I want to buy a rangefinder camera, which one is the best? And so on. Medium format camera, which one do I get? What do you recommend? Etc. etc. This is from my experience. I've, like you can see in the back shelves, there's a ton of gear. I've owned pretty much everything under the sun in medium format and pretty much large format. I've had lots of lenses, rangefinder cameras, 35mm SLR, so on. And I want to make this video to point out that when you are asking out to the public what to get, you're always going to get an opinion from someone taking that answer to their terrain. And their terrain is not wrong. It's obviously their experience and what they know of camera kinds, camera types, brands, experiences, positive or negatives. But what you always have to think is, what do you want to get from the gear you're buying or suggesting to buy, or you want to ask advice on? If you were asking me about medium format cameras, which is one of the things I like the most, and you said, hey, I want the best medium format camera, and I would answer, what are you going to shoot? And if you say, I want to shoot portraits, then I'd probably be like the Mamiya RZ that's here. If you say, I want something lightweight to carry around that is modular, I might tell you a Hasselblad 500 cm, or maybe a Bronica if the budget for Hasselblad is not the same. If you ask me, I want a 6x7 camera that I can carry with and travel with and not have to worry about light meters, I'd say Mamiya 7 or a Fuji GF670. But maybe you say, I want modular so I can change lenses from wide to telephoto, then I say Mamiya 7. If you want square, Mamiya 6. If you want to do macro pictures of bugs on, medium format, I probably would suggest something like the RB or RZ because they have bellows, because you can literally attach extension rings and get extreme macros. Plus you have a AE viewfinder that will meter off basically what you're beginning. You don't have to do any calculations on exposure. If you want to shoot basically anything crazy wide that's fun and good, I would say either go for the super wide from Hasselblad, or maybe get a Holga if you're going for something fun that you don't mind so much. There's plenty of cameras, well, actually not the Holga, sorry, the Lomo LCA Plus, I think. So there's a ton of cameras out there and a ton of experiences, and we all have, like I said, our baggage. Like if you ask me about TLRs and which one to get, I've had horrible experiences with the Rolleiflex cameras because I always bought from untrustworthy sources. I bought a 2.8F that had scratch focusing screen. I bought a 2.8E that had back focus for 1.5 meters after CLA. So like I've been burnt out by Rolleiflex. I still know they're superb cameras, and I know a lot of people get amazing stuff. They just haven't worked for me. So I would shift towards the Mamiya C330, stuff like that. So what I'm trying to say is, when you're asking about what gear to get, you always have to, more than ask what gear do I get, is what are you going to be shooting? What is your budget, and what you intend to, to get from there. Sometimes even examples of photographers that you follow, that you like, that you've seen. And there's not really sometimes so much shortcuts in terms of pricing. If you really want to get like the sharpest 6x7 negatives and you follow some photographers that are shooting Mamiya 7, yes, there's some sharp lenses that will render well on medium format 6x7, but they will never be exactly the same. So always just take a little bit into the fact that you might get recommended something that's out of your budget, but there are always budget-friendly options. There's the Texas Leica that doesn't have meter, but it is really good. It shoots 6x7 for the one model, 6x8 and 6x9, so you can choose your flavor. But this is because I constantly see people asking, what is the best? What do you recommend? Hey, what should I get? Hey, I want a large format lens. What do you want? And then it's not the same, a wide, normal, telephoto. So try to stop down first, maybe instead of what should I get, and that's it. Give some feedback. What do you want to shoot? What's your budget? What's your experience with cameras? That also is very important. Like, I wouldn't recommend certain cameras to certain people if they had bad experiences. Like rangefinder cameras are a kind of camera that I have learned to love, but I did not like at the beginning. because I was used to SLRs and seeing what I was focusing, and you know, precision with SLRs is actually there. You see what you get unless you don't have full coverage of the lens or the viewfinder, sorry. So rangefinders is something I always recommend. Don't start with a rangefinder that is expensive, even though you might recoup the money pretty fast and you can buy like a M2 and pretty much not lose money a year later. But try to get something maybe like a Canonet or Olympus Electro, Yashica Electro 35, I think is the name. Get something inexpensive, and I say inexpensive because they are not cheap anymore, but they're cheaper than a Leica M6 and a Summicron 35, just to figure out that you're left-eyed and then you can't really focus with your nose on the back and so on. There's so many things that happen when you are purchasing, and it's really hard nowadays. You can't really walk to any camera shop and say, hey, show me all your rangefinders for film. I want to try them all. I'm going to shoot for them a roll for each and decide. So make sure that when you're choosing, you're picking and you're asking, you actually have answers before you ask questions, because that's what I always ask, what you want to shoot. Same thing with large format. When you are wanting to get into large format and you are thinking what you're going to shoot, large format is even worse because it's bulky, it's expensive, and they're even more rare. So if you're shooting in the field and you want something like that, maybe I won't recommend a P2. If you're shooting extreme macros, maybe I won't recommend an Intrepid. If you're shooting in really windy conditions, maybe I'll recommend something that actually is sturdy and won't fly away. If you're shooting, I don't know what to say, wide angle shots, maybe architecture, I won't recommend a field camera. Maybe I'll recommend something like a P2 from Cinar or Arca Swiss with back bellows so you can go up and down. So this video is basically that. It's a way to see, like, please, I mean, it's a wishful thinking, but I wish people would suggest this video to anybody asking, hey, what do I buy? What do you recommend? And like I said, everybody will take it to their terrain. It's very hard to be impartial in camera gear, especially because we all have experiences with our cameras. I can put an example. I bought a Mamiya 7 when they were €1,000 back in the day, sold it for 1,200. I was like, I don't need that camera, I'm over it. 6x7 is so sharp, I'll shoot 4x5. Then I decided I missed it and I wanted to buy another one. And I bought a Mamiya 6 and I was like, Mamiya 6 is such a nice camera, collapses, but it didn't fill me up with 6x6. Like, it was just square and I didn't like it. There was too little options and they didn't do. So I changed it for Mamiya 7, was happy again. Years later, I decided I didn't need the Mamiya 7 for the second time around, and I decided, okay, I can buy something cheaper. And I'm going to change my Mamiya 7 with, I think I went with a 645 GA Fuji, the point and shoot, because it was like fast, it was easy to shoot. Then I started having problems with the focus was kind of slow. Then I had problems with the knobs, kind of skipping apertures and stuff, which is something normal. They get glitchy. So I sold that. And then I wanted my Mamiya 7 again. But the Mamiya 7s had gone in price up and up and up and up and up. And they were pretty high by then. They were probably 3K, 2.5K. And I found it way too high because I had sold mine for 1.3, the second one. And then I was like, okay, I'll get the Fuji GF670. So I bought a Fuji GF670. Well, I loaned from a friend a Fuji GF670. Honestly, wasn't for me. The 75, my favorite lens on the Mamiya 7 is the 65. 75 wasn't there. Then I hated that you had to like collapse the whole camera, focus at infinity. The focusing was a little wiggly and weird. The lens can't have a filter or a hood when you collapse it, which is annoying too. So I turned it back and I thought, okay, well, what other camera can I get that's similar and that I've never tried? I was like, oh, what about the Plaubo Machina? The Plaubo Machina is an amazing camera, has an 80 2.8. Maybe I can put up with an 80 if it's a 2.8. I can shoot with, less light, shoot some portraiture of my kids when they're in the house. I got the Plaubo Machina, used it, honestly still have it. It's such a quirky camera. All cameras kind of operate similar in the SLR rangefinder style, and then suddenly you have the Plaubo, which is like twisting the way you think. Suddenly you're focusing with a knob, then you're suddenly have this chunky lens on the front that you have to close, stop down, and so on. Then the advance feels like it's going to break. Then the light meter is not very good, and then it's going to break soon because if you don't do the infinity focus and collapse it, it will break the cable because it's very thin. It didn't fulfill my needs. And then when it's open, it's really front heavy because of that 80 2.8 Nikkor. And I ended up picking up for another time a Mamiya 7 II with a 65, and that's when I'm happy. And once again, I'm back at the starting point of, do I really need a Mamiya 7? And this is happening again. And I've done that with the super wide from Hasselblad, which I bought the GA645W. I bought like 50 mils for the Hasselblad thinking, that's like the super wide, or 40 mil. I've tested it, not liked it. So each camera has a thing. And the question is that, like, what do you want from the camera? What do you want from your pictures? And then you can recommend or get recommended a camera. I've done a ton of recommendations, and always, always, always is, what do you want to shoot? What is your budget? What's your experience? And that's it. Like, just give that little resume online when you're asking, and people will be able to maybe help you better. And yes, everybody will put their touch, but I think that will give a better idea. Same as I always say, don't go for the super hype cameras. Sometimes they're way too expensive for starters. You maybe want to get a feel if you like the system, or you like the way it focuses or shoots or exposes or size frame, or, you know, whatever it is. But yeah, that was the video today. Thanks for everybody who watches. I would love to hear your opinion on the best gear and the recommendations and what. And if you do want to have any recommendations of, hey, what do you would recommend for this, please let me know below. I would happily answer you. I'll try to answer as many people that have questions about gear as possible. That's what I like doing on this channel, is helping you out. And as always, I'm leaving links to Patreon and PayPal donations for anyone that wants to support content like this and more thorough, thought out videos, you know, about topics that might be, you know, the common non-clickbaity stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.